Welcome to another day in the Matrix, waters above crypto. I'm sending you all love and high vibrations to start off your week. Since my last video where I shared the connections to the 666 days since the start of the pandemic, we have watched Bitcoin and the altcoins take a hit on those exact dates of January 5th and January 8th. I shared those dates with everyone over a week ago and an overall warning about the crypto market until we have Mercury retrograde on January 14th. Today I have a Gematria decode to share with you that might bring to light when we could potentially expect a trend reversal and a bit of a relief rally for the crypto market. And of course I'll be jumping into the charts of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP to share some price levels to look out for. So if you're new here, we do cryptocurrency technical analysis and combine it with Gematria Numerology and Astrology to understand these markets. Feel free to subscribe and turn on the bell notification to stay updated on when new videos come out. And make sure to give this video a like and share this channel with other conscious beings to help grow this community. And for those of you that want to learn how to do technical analysis and combine it with Gematria, you can join my Mastermind course. The link to my website can be found in the description box of this video and in the pinned comment below for access to the Mastermind course. And with that being said, let's take the red pill. So all of last week, it was all about the 666 with those connections going back to March 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th, all because of that time frame of the start of the pandemic when the C19 changed our reality as we know it. And today we are seeing a little bit more red, and I believe it might be a connection that we can make really quickly. First of all, it is January 10th, which is the 1-1 date. Rules of numerology remove the 0 and that 11222. And today is actually 111 days since we had the low on September 21st, which again was the full moon, which followed the start of Shemitah. So we had Rosh Hashanah on the 7th, and then we had that full moon low. Since then, a little bit of a basing structure. It took about 5 or 6 days, and then we had Mercury retrograde, where there was basically a straight line breakout into around 67,000, a little bit of a pullback, all-time high. And all of this happening and ending on the 10th of November, which again was the 111 date, 11 being November and 10 being the date, and of course that's the 111. And from here to here, 111. And this 111 or 111 comes back to New York in Gematria, and I've shown this quite a bit. And over the weekend, I believe it was on the 8th of January, we saw Bitcoin bottom out at 1:11 p.m. and it did that for about 2 days in a row, I believe. It was pretty interesting to watch it all play out. But anyways, getting back to the decode, we have tomorrow being the 111 date. It is January 11th, 111, and it is also 4 months and 4 days since Rosh Hashanah. So this could be a big connection here to be made, but of course with this 11, it's definitely important that 111, the reset. So this 111 in the 222 year, 4 months and 4 days, tomorrow's date numerology being the 9, and we know BTC coming back to 9, BTC being the ticker symbol. We have 9 in Chaldean, and this date will also be a Tuesday, which is Martes, day of Mars, and Mars is Aries, and I'll show you in Gematria how amazing this all is. Aries giving us the 11. So again, tomorrow being the 11th day of the year in the first month, that 11 coming back to the day of the week, Tuesday, which is Mars, which is Aries. And this 11 is absolutely incredible to see it all play out. Also, Aries is the god of war. And that god of war giving us the 44. And again, since Shemitah, it is 4 months, 4 days. Absolutely incredible. So one of the things that we need to consider is this upcoming Mercury stationed in retrograde. And Mercury retrograde, I believe, is on the 14th. And this might be something to consider because this date is pretty interesting with it being 4 months and 7 days. Again, this 47 comes back to the element gold because 47 is the atomic number, or sorry, silver. excuse me, it comes back to silver, 47 being the atomic number of silver, and 47 is the 15th prime number. And you've been hearing me talk about 15 quite a bit on this channel ever since the new variant. This new variant, I'm just going to type it out, I'm not going to say it, but this new variant is the 15th Greek letter. And remember, we are in Platinum Jubilee very, very soon on February the 6th. And this will be the 70th year of the Queen Elizabeth, who reigns over 15 Commonwealth realms. This big connection because this new variant equals 70 in Greek isopsophy. So I'm going to keep talking about this because it's very important. Everyone needs to understand what I've been teaching here by this code because it is absolutely a game changer in the way you could perceive how this market actually works. So anyways, getting back to this big connection with this 4 months and 7 days since Rosh Hashanah, this 47 coming back to the 15th prime number, everything being tied to this number 15. It's actually quite amazing. The Dow Jones, and this is kind of just a side note, Dow Jones giving us 105, which again in the rules of numerology is 15. And of course we have that 111, the 33. These are all very powerful numbers that we've talked about quite a bit, but this 105 goes back to the 15. And I'll show you. Dow Jones Industrial Average, again, 150. And also 111. These numbers are no joke, guys. So this always comes back to 15. And when did the Dow Jones hit its all-time high? On the 5th of January, the 1-5 date. Everything is about 1-5. All right, and I'm going to show you in a moment how important this is because XRP, of course, comes back to 15 in Chaldean. But with this 47 connection and the 15th prime, it's pretty interesting how it's all adding up in this transition date into the 15th date of the year. This 15th day of the year will be the second day of Mercury retrograde, so it's definitely something to consider. But coming back to the 14th, we have it being the 57 in the date numerology, and this 57 coming right back to the date numerology of the start of Shemitah, and this 57 comes back to our good old friends, Society of Jesus, with the 57 in Chaldean, and it also comes back to Rosh Hashanah, and Rosh Hashanah being that 57 again happening on the 57 date numerology. How interesting is that? Well, you guys will know why this all happens because it is all coded in way in advance. All right, so this 57 being tied into everything, it's quite interesting how this is all working out. Well, so one of the things that I've been thinking about is this following day, the 15th, and this is really where I wanted to get into with the rest of this decode. This being the 15th day of the year, again, coming back to this new variant being the 15th Greek letter. And also, I was just showing you that 4-7 connection. This is the transition day, 4-7 being the 15th prime. And this 58 that we're getting, it's very important right here. This date numerology we're getting, 58, and this 58 comes back to XRP with the 58. And remember, 58 we're getting in Mercury retrograde. All right, 58 in Chaldean. So this is all tying in, guys. This being the 15th day of the year, and this all coming back to XRP with the 15 and the 58 connection. 58 date numerology. And I'm going to break this down a little bit further because this is the 58 date numerology on the 15th day of the year. And it is also in the Hebrew year of 5782, which reduces down to 22, and XRP is 22 in full reduction. We're hitting all the numbers here, guys. Also, this 23 is going to come into play in a moment, but of course, the Chaldean most pure cipher is what's most important right now. So one other connection we can make is from this date going back to December 4th, December 4th being that eclipse, that big energy in the market. And you can see right here, it's 1 month and 11 days. So it's the 111. We keep coming back to this very powerful number. There's also 42 days, and this 42 we're getting in Ripple XRP. 42 in Chaldean. And also one other thing to bring up is this 134 anagram for pi, 3.14. That's something else that's interesting because it's all about coming full circle. I've brought this up before, this term perfect circle, or this coming to full circle with this pie, and I'm really interested in how this is all going to play out, because I believe the 22 year, the year we're in right now, is the year for XRP. And this is all coded in again because what is this new variant doing? Well, it's creating all this chaos in the world. We have lockdown, we have civil unrest. Of course, it's all a psyop. It doesn't actually matter if it's real or not real. It's just the spell casting that the New World Order gives to us, and we're all living with it. That's been life for the past 2 years, and anyone who says otherwise, well, you're clearly not awake. So what's happening here with this date that I'm really interested in also is because the last day of Hanukkah, which was the 6th of December, it's giving us 40 days. And this is all coming back to the 15th of January, by the way, guys. So this 40 days that we're getting, again, Ripple giving us 40 in full reduction. So 40 coming back to Mercury, which we are all talking about, Mercury retrograde. So this 40 again, and one last thing that I think is pretty interesting is when we go to Rosh Hashanah again and compare everything, this will be 130 days, and the 15th is the 13-date numerology, and Mercury gives us 103. So again, 130 is 13 in numerology, and then you have the 13th date numerology and Mercury giving us 13. Again, with the 40 tying back to Ripple. And that being 40 days since the last day of Hanukkah. I've connected not only Rosh Hashanah, the eclipse, Mercury retrograde, and Hanukkah. Literally everything is coming back to this. So just to play a little bit more with this 1331 connection, you know Mercury is Hermes. Again, Hermes giving us that 24. 24 is the symbol of XRP. XRP's logo is the X, which is the 24th letter in the alphabet, and that comes back to Hermes. All right, 86, 68 connection coming back to Ripple. 86, and of course also Mercury in the same cipher coming back to Hermes. 68, as above, so below. 32, connecting back XRP 23. You could just keep doing this all day. That's how amazing this is all coded in. It's pretty mind-blowing. And the symbol of Hermes, and by the way, for anyone who doesn't know, Mercury or Hermes is the god of financial gain. The god of financial gain, okay? And the symbol is the Caduceus. I'm going to make sure I spell this correctly. This Caduceus with the 77, again, Judaism, with the 77, 23 connection, going back to Caduceus. And this is very noticeable symbology that we get in what's going on with the World Health Organization and all of those scams. So I just wanted to play along with this 3113 connection because, again, this being 130 days, 13-date numerology, the mirror of this 13 is 31. Again, the symbol of Hermes is the Caduceus, the 31. All in the code. Right? So what I'm really interested in here is perhaps, and I'm not trying to make any predictions, I'm just using the code, I'm trying to be a critical thinker right now. Perhaps Mercury retrograde that we're having on January 14th will be the bullish reversal, or the start of a bottoming structure to get us towards a bullish reversal by the end of Mercury retrograde, which is pretty much early February. Right? And we could sort of think this way because we can see the crypto market is heavily beaten down. We've gotten past most of our big connections here with the date. And I also gave a warning about January 10th to January 11th because of that pivot, the idea of the 1-1 and the 1-1-1. So it'd be really interesting if tomorrow we start to see a little bit of a pivot, sort of a structure of reversal. Now, I'm not saying that is what will happen. It's more the Mercury retrograde time frame where we can anticipate some sort of, reversal, just because prior Mercury retrograde iterations, we've seen bullish reversals. So it would be really interesting to see how this all plays out, especially with the two back-to-back eclipses, how we had in May and June, and then we just had the back-to-back eclipses in November, December, followed by Mercury retrograde coming up very soon. The one thing that I can say, though, that is something to keep in the back of your mind, would be the full moon, which is on the 17th. So we have the wolf moon, and I haven't done any decoding on that, but it's definitely something to consider here. The wolf moon, oh well, the 47, 15th prime. Oh, sorry. It's just so crazy how this code works. I was literally just talking about silver and how it's the 15th, the 47th element, atomic number, the 15th prime, and of course Wolf Moon coming back to that. And with this 41 connecting, also the 103. Remember what I was telling you with Mercury, how that's the 13, the 31, the 113. I mean, there's so many 13s here, but that 41 in full reduction is interesting because it's coming back to ethereum, right? And this is definitely something that plays a role in here because ethereum is heavily tied to Judaism. All right, it is just facts. And with this connection, we've had a lot of movement around holidays, Jewish holidays, and the Jewish calendar, all regarding ETH. And it would just be interesting if some of these connections that I made with the 15s and the 14s are benefiting ETH because of the connections we have with ETH, with the 41 there and the 1541 right there. So again, anything that has to deal with that 15, like the new variant being the 15th Greek letter, it's definitely going to notice, it's going to show up in ETH because ETH is ether, and ether is the upper air that the Titans breathe. And everything that I'm doing, showing you guys about Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, etc., this is all about the Titans, the gods, or the Elohim. And ETH having that 33 right there, I mean, it's pretty unescapable. This is a New World Order coin, and it was designed for that purpose, and it fits in astro-theologically. So let's get to some of the TA, but I did want to start out with this Mercury retrograde analysis. Perhaps it is the start of a bullish reversal. Again, we don't really know until we're, seeing it happen in the charts, but here we are talking about it ahead of time to try to get some ideas as to what could happen. With the 17th, though, being the next full moon, typically we see the micro cycle bottoms on the chart around the time frame of full moons, and this can be up to 5 days before or 5 days after. So that would be a window of about the 12th to like the 22nd, 23rd. But with that being said, look at the date of the full moon. It is the 15 date numerology. So let's just be cautious, guys. Like, if you're in this market for the long haul, this is the type of price area where you want to be considerate of perhaps dollar cost averaging, just because we're at extreme fear in the market, and that's always been a good time to accumulate. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not telling you what to buy. I've been personally investing, and anyone who joins the Mastermind community over on Patreon, it's patreon.com/watersabove. Any Mastermind community member gets to see everything I'm buying and the prices that I'm buying at. And lately I have been accumulating, mostly because I like to buy when I'm seeing extreme fear in the market. I know that that's like, a lot of people don't perceive the market as a good time to buy when it's down, but when you scroll out and see how the past performance of the charts are based on fear and greed, it's always kind of obvious that once something's really popular, once something has a lot of hype, that's typically the worst time to start investing. It's when something's getting beaten down, it's bloody, it's boring, that's typically a good time to invest in. When you do actually invest, you don't go all in. You have a dollar cost averaging strategy. So for me, my protocol for this is I am not going all in. I do anticipate there's always an opportunity for more downside. It's the matrix. Anything is possible, and you can't just bet on perfectly buying the bottom. That doesn't exist. When you're in a market for at least 5 to 10 years, that's kind of the time horizon for where you really start to wrap your mind and your gut around how this actually all works. And the biggest thing about investing is emotion. And we've all learned this. So when the masses are completely distraught and anxious and sad, that's typically when the most sophisticated investors are buying that dip. And it's always based off sentiment. But I just wanted to say that for everyone, because I do understand that a lot of people are feeling low right now. They're worried. But that type of feeling is something that only happens when people are over leveraged in a market, when they're a little bit too hopeful. And you need to be grateful for whatever you receive as part of this process of a wealth transfer, and that is something that I've always sort of like taken some time to step back from the screen, from the numbers, from what I'm seeing, and spend more time manifesting, actually being grateful for everything that happens. That way it reverberates out in the universe and it comes back to me with abundance. that's been something that's helped me a lot stay calm throughout all of these moments in the market. And again, I've watched the C word crash happen. I watched the May 19th crash happen. Like, we were running this channel and doing everything around that time. We watched it stay boring and bloody at 29K Bitcoin for almost 100 days. We watched the relief rally. I mean, and then recently this December 4th eclipse. So it's been a wild ride. And throughout all of this, every time we get these big dramatic moves in the market, I've gotten a lot better at navigating how things are going to go for me based off of the sentiment of everyone else. Because when you have a long-term investment thesis that you believe in, that you designed for yourself with your own money, it allows you to actually disregard whatever the noise is in the background that's coming from Twitter or your friends or your family or anyone for that matter. Investing is all about your journey. And of course, it's beautiful that people could come to my channel and learn a little bit more about how this market actually operates. I'm super grateful for everyone. But remember, it's all about your journey. And in order for you to conquer that journey, it's through you controlling emotions, being grateful, manifesting abundance, and just keeping your head straight and focused on learning. Spend more time, more of your free time learning a skill and less of your free time worried. You know, you're gonna get a lot of result for that effort you put in. And if you're not putting in any effort and you're just worried and anxious all the time, well, do you really deserve that outcome of abundance? You're gonna have to ask yourself that. So I hope those words of wisdom helped everyone out. Let's move into the charts. So again, with this big connection here, perhaps with this 111 connection to this full moon time frame of September 21st to today, 111 days. And I'm going to show you one more thing. When we have this big dump here of Rosh Hashanah on the 7th of September, and I go back 111 days, boom, May 19th. All right. So May 19th, right there, 111 days. That was the day of the big dump. So I'm pretty interested in all of this. I mean, we could use this 111 for the future, perhaps make some other connections. But for right now, this is pretty amazing how we've seen this 111 from Rosh Hashanah to the lows over here, the big dump day on May 19th. And then, of course, from this low in the structure right there, that wick on the 21st, coming to today, the 111. That's not me saying that this is the lowest we'll go, by the way. That does make sense if it's the lowest because it would be a double bottom back test of the lows in the structure. Again, when we had this low and confirmed this as the higher low because of continuation right here above this high, that confirmed that as a higher low from that low, if you want to consider that. And since we've actually back tested this, so when you look at this from a technical perspective, we need to hold this level. We need to. Because if we start to close dailies below this level right here, that's going to probably, a head and shoulders could play out here, and that's not good. So this could potentially become a head and shoulders, and that's not me being bearish. That's not me trying to scare anyone or induce any anxiety or fear, but it's just what reality is, guys. So we do have to be cautious about any of our trading at this time. I definitely do not recommend you get into big trades, especially with leverage. Protect yourself. Give this some time to form some structure. So far, it's just been a falling knife. So right here is around the time where we probably will start to see extreme fear reads for another week or so. And perhaps we do have a little bit of a structure like this where we see it takes like about 10 days to get out of this pocket. So if we go from the low day right here on that 111 and we go at about 9 or 10 days, that's bringing us to the 19th to 20th of January. And again, that is within the 5-day time frame of the full moon. So if I was to turn on my indicators for a second, you could see that it's our full moons that we typically get those bottoms. And once we get around the back-to-back eclipses, the price gets stunned for a little while. And that's what we've seen back here. We saw this big dump and then followed by the lunar eclipse, solar eclipse. This time frame right here, it did lead to some sideways and down. And if we were to take from this wick right here and measure it over to the June lows, it took about 34 days. If we go from this wick here, which I suppose we could consider this December 4th, very similar to the May 19th based on volume, based on sentiment, price action, etc. If we went over 34 days, I mean, that is pretty much within a couple days ago. So this is mimicking pretty nicely. And after this, it did have a little bit of a relief rally bump. You know, we're talking about like 25% or so, but it double bottomed. This is a bear trap right here, but this shit hurts people. So you just have to be careful. Like until we really have structure, which in my opinion, we have to get above 52K to really start seeing a reversal. And then we could start getting bullish again. But, for now, we're We're pretty much in a noticeable downtrend, and it's scary to backtest prior lows in the structure. But it's crypto, and crypto is very volatile, and it's very ritual. And I've proven this a lot of times in my work. When we have this ritual functionality to a market, it will purposefully invalidate some technicals in the very short term, and it takes a lot of patience to step back and see it for what it is as an actual technical analyst, which I think a lot of people have been denying TA works lately because of some of the things that have happened, because they're fixated on cycles. And once we saw this reversal right around here from the top of November 9th down through December 4th, we have to disregard the prior cycles. It's not important anymore, and we should also kind of welcome that, because if markets were just so cyclical to the exact day, what would, it would be that easy? No, it's never that easy, guys. Even when we look at the differences between, the 1987 crash to the dot-com bubble crash to the 2007, 2008 housing market crash. Yeah, these were big crashes and they did have similarities, but they're not perfectly replicated. You have to be okay with taking it for what it is. Do your best studying the market, but don't get so fixated on the precision. It's the precision that I think teaches us a lot. And I've learned a lot from that too with December 4th. And I admitted that around December 5th, 6th, my videos following up from the eclipse. I came out and publicly said, oh my God, like we learned so much from that experience, but the code was right. The code was spot on. December 4th ended up being a date that I revealed all the way back here in April into May. All of that, in advance. It didn't go the way we anticipated, but it still brought an immense amount of volatility. And that's what matters most, is proving that the code works. There's so many people out there on YouTube that have proven that TA works, or this particular investment or asset is a good investment or a good asset to stay away from, or this one's crash proof, this one's disinflationary. There's tons of channels out there teaching that. But how many channels are out there teaching you about the energy of volatility on dates 6 months in advance? That is what I wanted to bring to this world. That was the unique perspective that I wanted to share with everyone. So unfortunately, it went the opposite way, but it still actually proved itself through the code that it was an amazing call. It's just the direction was wrong. And that's the human error. And that's something that I take responsibility for. That's something that I needed to learn. And it was kind of, it was one of my most beautiful moments in my whole time being an investor. It taught me so much. Now that we're here, flipping bearish over these 666 connections going back to the March 20th crash all the way 2 years ago, now we're seeing that this code is still with precision working like magic. And that's really the thing that we need to step back and remember here. Anyone who's been viewing my work for a while now, we've been pretty much watching this market go in our favor the whole time up until we had this transition of energy. And one of the things that I'm really considering here, not only about Mercury retrograde coming up very soon, but the 2 back-to-back eclipses we're going to have in late April into May. Those are interesting. And I was watching something about this I Pet Goat, which I'm sure a lot of people have watched it already, but there's some people doing some amazing work decoding that. And perhaps those 2 back-to-back eclipses are something to consider, with one of the eclipses being in Scorpio, and this connection to Scorpio with the decode that was coming out for the eclipse scene inside of I Pet Goat 2. Lots to share on that. So definitely something that I'm working on in the background to get a little bit more data on. But in the meantime, I would not be surprised if we're sort of doing a combination of this structure back here, again, back-to-back eclipses with one big drown out price, back-to-back eclipses over here, one big drown out in price, and then Mercury retrograde, which showed up around here, by the way. And it would be nice. We did have a Mercury retrograde around here. It just went in a sideways downtrend, but still led to continuation. Okay, so I've shown this in my Patreon. I made a whole video about the Mercury retrograde analysis and included the eclipses. And a majority of the time, Mercury retrograde is either sideways and leading to a pump, or it actually is just a pump. And that's what we saw back here in Mercury retrograde as well. This pump that we got during Mercury retrograde was the same as this. It was literally identical. Even with the little fake out W pattern to slightly new highs like we got, boom, fake out W pattern, slightly new highs directly into a new moon, directly around a new moon. All of these peaks have been around new moons. Even this recent one around December 27th. I know it seems like it was far off, but it was literally like, what, 5 days? Just like I taught you guys in the beginning of this video. It's typically a 5-day window plus or minus. It's not about being 100% perfect. It's about getting somewhat of a semblance of direction. And whenever we're around these new moons, it's typically highs. Of course, the eclipse is the anomaly. We need to remember that total eclipses especially, so not partial, not penumbral, just total lunar or total solar eclipses are absolutely critical. So anyways, when it comes to downside targets, it's honestly just holding this level of 39.6, which is an identical double bottom to 111 days ago. And the next level to look out for would be the 37, and that has to deal with the fib at the 236. So if we're gonna continue to dump down, this 37,300 area will be a back test of the second low in the structure on August 4th, and that area would most likely lead to a bounce just because of the RSI being so drowned. So another thing to mention, though, was the log growth curve analysis that I've shared, which the red dev line, we've pierced through the bottom of it, but holding that on a weekly close is very important. And this blue line right here is the last daily close before the buy signal flashed on the hash ribbons. Bitcoin historically doesn't close below that price ever again. We've seen right here, too, on the lows of July 20th that we did get around this red dev line after a back test on June. So could we have an exact mimic structure? Remember, eclipse, pump into Mercury retrograde, fake out, double bottom on the red dev line. So we have eclipse. Now we have moving down to fill out the wick, just like we are doing here, touching the red dev line, perhaps Mercury retrograde, fake out, double bottom into like mid-February, and then continuation. That would be wild, because that would be an identical fractal repeat. And if that was to happen, I think we would have 3 back-to-back firmaments. So we have this one firmament, 2 firmaments, 3 firmaments, and perhaps even a slightly higher high, like Bitcoin goes to 72K and then the bull run ends. That would be insane if that plays out that way, because of course that would bring an alt season for Bitcoin to have a bounce that high and to make such a move. But it would also be such a shakeout, and it would have to depend on time, because when we have those back-to-back eclipses in April and May, I will not be playing around on those eclipses. I am taking them way more seriously this year regarding my investments, because I've learned already what they can do. We've seen it happen multiple times now. So just for the fun of it, if we do have an upside target, it's going to be somewhere around the 0.5 fib. But honestly, this 13 exponential moving average has been playing a huge role in resistance, so keep an eye on that. If we do get back to somewhere around 50 to 51, that could be a reason for an inverse head and shoulders in the short term. So if I was to show you exactly what I'm talking about, we would have some sort of structure where if I could find a clean chart, I could show you. Boom. So we have here, we have the left shoulder, we have head, right shoulder. And that could be some sort of play out for an inverse head and shoulders, bouncing off this line of this ascending triangle, which actually has a breakout target sometime in, I would say, March. So I don't want to bog down my charts too much, but this shows you kind of what's going on here. Huge pattern, huge. All right, and we're pretty much still within it, and it's a beautiful pattern. Huge ascending triangle that goes back to the prior all-time highs, rejections off of the end of the year lows of 2020, and two back tests at the bottom from July 2021 and right now of January 2022. So if Bitcoin wants to continue down to that 236 level, of course, we're going to see the altcoins drain even more. We're going to see Ethereum move down to the 2,700 area. And remember what I told everyone, if we see Bitcoin break and go down to the low 40s, we're going to see ETH go down to 3,000. And that is exactly what happened. So that again was a perfect call out on ETH. We watched it once it broke this trend line right here, which I've been showing you guys for weeks. Once we broke that, it was in correspondence with Bitcoin breaking around that 45 area. Once we started to get a little lower, we saw that cascade to the downside and get caught perfectly at the 0.5 fib. Perfectly. All right. And it hasn't closed any dailies below that, and it's still technically a higher low. So we have low, higher low, and right now we're still in a higher low until we can't confirm it as a higher low, of course, until we get a trend reversal. But still, holding this level at this RSI read getting into, I believe it was like 26 yesterday or 2 days ago. You know, that's typically an area where ETH is pretty good to scoop up. Again, not advice. I'm just letting you know. Definitely something to consider. I actually bought some more ETH today when it went below 3,000. I shared that on my Patreon or on my Discord for the Patreon supporters. So this is an area to consider, 2,700 in regards to Bitcoin closing below 40K and heading more to the downside. Of course, if that was to happen, we're going to see some moves down for XRP, and XRP would just be a wick fill, most likely, of this low 60, probably 65, 66 cent area. But so far, it's actually holding somewhat okay around the 70 cent, and that's good. Because this is so suppressed, so beaten down, you know, it's really... how much lower can it go, right? That's kind of the idea here. But if we are to consider structure, you know, whilst some coins are actually trading at their double bottom lows of June and July, XRP is actually above that. So we have the double bottom lows of around 51 cent, and we could see XRP right now is sitting at about 70 cents. So it is something to consider structurally. This has been holding, and it's forming a huge symmetrical triangle, which should have a breakout into February. And it would be interesting if on the 15th of January, we started to see that breakout for XRP, going back to what I shared with everyone a little bit earlier on my decode, connecting it to Mercury and Hermes and Mercury retrograde with the 58 and XRP with the 58. It'd just be so amazing if that was to start happening. And that would be around the time frame we would anticipate, you know, XRP to start showing some strength. Given that it is so beaten down, it's really one of the next coins to have dominance shift into it. And I know people might not believe that, but I am a firm believer in that, because the market works in harmony. Okay, it's cyclical, but it works in harmony. So there's some coins that do better at certain times, then there's some coins that do worse at certain times, but they move like a basket. So any coins that are tied to XRP are going to do well when XRP does well. And the same thing goes for any coins that are tied to ETH will do very well when ETH does well. And this is just how the market operates. And when you see ETH poorly performing, you'll see those coins tied to ETH poorly performing. And I'm not talking about ERC20s. I'm talking about the code. I'm talking about how they tie to ETH with Gematria and the esoteric concepts, like ETH being the upper air that the gods breathe. I've taught you guys this. So for now, it would be great to see XRP start to hold these levels, perhaps get back into a little bit of a bottoming structure with closures above the 13 exponential. Could take some time though, just like we saw with Bitcoin, going back to the last time it formed at this very low level 111 days ago. It had a little bit of sideways before Mercury retrograde, and that could be potentially what we're about to see today. So my idea here is tomorrow being the 111 date. I am being cautious because, again, this 111, it's a powerful number. I showed you how when we take from Rosh Hashanah going back 111 days, we get this time frame right here of the May 19th dump, and then from today over to the last dump we had 111 days. Tomorrow's the 111 date. All of this coming back to New York, which again is what runs this market, the bull at Wall Street, the charging bull. And we know that this is a powerful place. It is part of the trinity between the Vatican and which is the Vatican and the City of London. So that's what runs the show. Vatican, City of London, CERN out in Switzerland, and then Washington, D.C., with the help of New York as part of that huge battery that's running everything that happens with finances. So I'm going to leave it at that. I hope everyone has a beautiful rest of your day. I know the market's bloody, but take it as an opportunity. With this market being the way that it is, how heavily manipulated it is, it's always about getting the masses manipulated emotionally, and that's typically around the time that we see markets pivot. So definitely watch this video again if you need to learn a little bit more. I know I went through a lot of stuff in a somewhat short period of time, actually, for the amount of information that was shared. Definitely re-listen to some of the sentiment information I shared. Those words of wisdom could absolutely help newer investors. I'm wishing you guys a beautiful rest of your day in the Matrix. Much love.